We'd like to discuss the restriction of eating meat during this period of time coming up to Tisha B'Av. In the Shulchan Aruch, there are three different practices, three different minhagim to the restriction of eating meat and drinking wine. Shulchan Aruch brings that some have a custom from the 17th of Tammuz already to refrain from eating meat and drinking wine. Now, let me first talk about the reason why we don't eat or we wouldn't drink wine in this period of time. There are two main reasons. Now, you'd all know that a mourner is entitled to eat meat and drink wine. However, the mourning which we are mourning for, which is the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, comes with a combination of the fact that they ceased to sacrifice the Korban Tamid, which was the regular sacrifice which they would bring in the morning and in the evening on the altar every day. On the 17th of Tammuz, it stopped. There's another thing of drinking wine, which is Nisuch HaYayin, which was also poured on the Mizbeach. We don't have a Beit HaMikdash today. The Talmud in Sotah says that after the destruction, there were people who wanted to restrict themselves from eating generally all year round. The Chachamim says we can't do that. It's too much. So therefore, we don't have that restriction. So there were people who took the practice from the 17th of Tammuz. A mourner is entitled to have meat and drink wine because we want to console him, because he's not going to get the person who's passed away to come back. So we have to console him in a way of nechama. However, we, so long as we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, we have to continue mourning in a way that will remind us of the destruction. So therefore, we do have some restriction of not eating meat and not drinking wine. So let me explain. The first custom the Shulchan Aruch brings is from the 17th of Tammuz. I haven't seen many communities nowadays who adopt that practice or have that minhag. However, there are yechidei segula. There are individuals who actually don't have meat and don't drink wine during this period of time, only on Shabbat. Communities, I haven't heard. From Rosh Chodesh Av until Tisha B'Av, there are many communities amongst Ashkenazim, amongst Sephardim, who don't eat meat and don't drink wine from the Rosh Chodesh Av. The Baghdadian custom and many Sephardi communities hold that it's only from after Rosh Chodesh. The Chidah writes that it's only after Rosh Chodesh from the night of the 2nd of Ab until Tisha B'Av, and some even go on until the next day, the 10th of Ab, which is a good practice to refrain from having meat on the next after Tisha B'Av. However, the Baghdadian custom was that on the 10th of Ab, they used to eat meat and drink wine. We'll discuss that in due course. However, there is the third custom is that only on the week of Tisha B'Av, you don't have meat, you don't eat meat, and you don't drink wine. That seems to be amongst the Sephardic communities a little more taken on that custom. So people should try and verify what the minhag is. And if they don't know if that's the minhag or not, then the mainstream is to stop from Rosh Chodesh in the second day of Rosh Chodesh, obviously, after Rosh Chodesh itself, because Rosh Chodesh is a time of a little bit more rejoicement, so therefore we don't refrain from eating on Rosh Chodesh meat or wine. So that seems to be the mainstream custom. If you know you have a custom just on the week, now there are certain communities, and I've got to be clear with this, which the Shulchan Aruch actually doesn't bring that minhag, but is put in the Rambam. The Rambam does not bring any restriction of eating meat, any custom of not eating meat and drinking wine, only in the meal which you have just before the fast. I have heard of some Yemenite communities who actually maintain that practice, and they have meat up to Tisha B'Av, up to Sudat HaMafseket. But the mainstream Sephardi custom is, again, that some only the week, but most is from Rosh Chodesh, from the second day of Rosh Chodesh, meaning the 2nd of Ab at night. That's a restriction of not eating meat. Now, in regards of children not eating meat, or ill people or weak people who need to have meat for their health, now obviously there's no restriction for them. They have to eat meat as normal. Children who we educate in school and we tell them that we don't eat meat in the 9 days, it will be a bit conflicting, a bit contradictory to what they've been educated. So therefore, if they're strong enough, then they don't need the meat, then one should try and educate them. As the Trumat Hadashin says, they also need to be educated on mourning for the Bet HaMikdash. Hopefully they won't need to do that when they become Bar Mitzvah because Mashiach will come, but yet they still need to maintain practices of Avelut whilst they're minors. It differentiates between regular Avelut for relatives. This seems to be a little bit more strict. So if they do understand about the Avelut and they learn about it and they learn about not eating meat, so don't give them meat. Younger than that age, you could give them meat to eat. Now meat includes even chicken meat. So there's no difference between chicken and regular meat, even though they don't actually sacrifice chicken meat, but it's considered meat in the name, people call it as chicken meat.